Welcome to the Never-Ending Backlog Podcast, your place for short reviews from a gamer with the goal of reducing his backlog. From adventures to sandboxes, join our host as we walk through a collection of unplayed treasures. Now, let's take a look at the featured game of this episode of the Never-Ending Backlog.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Never-Ending Backlog. I'm your host Zach, and for our last review of our Steam's Autumn Sale Week, we are trying out less of a game and more of a toy, as the developer likes to call it. To us, it's certainly a fidget spinner sort of experience for your computer. However, it's extremely smooth, not plagued by microtransactions, and overall, it's just a beautiful experience. And you can see the potential of what it could be, even though it's amazing as is. So today we are reviewing Townscaper. So what is it? According to Steam, build quaint island towns with curvy streets, build small hamlets, soaring cathedrals, canal networks, or sky cities on stilts. Block by block, no goal, no real gameplay, just plenty of building and plenty of beauty. That's it. The genre is casual, city builder, indie game. The release date is 2020, and the developer is Oscar Stahlberg. Oh, I'm sorry if I butchered your name. I'm really sorry. And what else have they done? Oscar has worked with other developers to make Bad North, which I also played that game as well, and I enjoyed that one. Current price, you can pick it up for $5.39, down from the MSRP of $5.99. So not a huge savings, but still a good savings. Now let's jump into the actual review. This is by far the smallest game that was released in 2020 for us so far. It is 62 megabytes, and the graphics are quite good. It's actually clearly been optimized really well. Regarding graphics, gorgeous graphics. They remind me a lot of Flotsam, or Floatsam. That's Flotsam, F-L-O-T-S-A-M, which is another water city building game that I have loved playing. It's in early development as well on Steam. This game, Townscaper, doesn't have people, nor does it really have different buildings as much like Flotsam does. However, at 62 megabytes, the graphics are pretty smooth. So I would definitely check out Townscaper. I'd also check out Flotsam, because I think you'd enjoy Flotsam as well. Audio, really nice, clean, not really a lot to it. It does get a little repetitive when you're building the same thing over and over again. You do it fast, so it's like blah, 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 and it gets really frustrating fast, so just be aware of that. I usually just have music running in the background, and it sounds nice. Controls, it's relatively mouse-driven. However, the keyboard can be used to navigate your camera. There are a few oddities with this that I'll mention a little bit later in this review. Regarding gameplay, there's no real gameplay, really. You build cities in the middle of the ocean. You can choose different colors for your buildings, and you make different designs, etc. However, there are no resources, no people, and nothing along those lines. There are seagulls, though, so that's pretty cool. Difficulty, there's no difficulty. Anyone at any age can figure out this game. A lot of reviews I read were kids that are 4 and 9 years old playing this game, and they loved it. And I can definitely see why. It's just a beautiful game. Achievements, there are no achievements available for Townscaper. There's no goals or objectives, so it'd be really hard to do this. I mean, literally, you turn the game on, you start playing it. There's no tutorials or anything like that. The only thing would be like, hey, you opened up the game, achievement. Hey, you closed the game, achievement. So obviously that's not going to happen. Regarding pros, it's an extremely relaxing toy/game for your computer. The colors are vibrant, the designer works flawlessly, and is a very smooth building, city creating tool, better than any city creating tool I've ever played in my life. Like, I've played games that have where you build cities and buildings. They're usually not smooth. This is much, much smoother. Also, another pro is it allows your creativity to run free. It's somewhat like grabbing a box of open Legos and you just start building something random. A piece here, a piece there, and in the end you have a kingdom or a bus or a train or whatever your creativity wants to do. This game is very much like that, and I think that's a really cool feature. Cons, there is no goals, no achievements, no challenges, nothing. So if you're looking for a end goal, you're not going to get it here. Though there are a few controls, the rotate camera threw me off entirely for quite some time. I never figured out how to do it until I read online. I think I'd prefer it if it was the center mouse button or the right mouse button held down. But right now, it's if you hold down your left mouse button, which is what you use to click to drop the buildings. If you hold it down, that's also what rotates. So I think it's kind of weird. It kind of goes against most of the games where you control the camera with the other mouse buttons. So it's a little bit different. Also, sometimes the tiles aren't perfect squares. So if you're looking to try and make a perfect square base, so maybe it's like a floating island that's square, it's nearly impossible since the water map tiles have different shapes and sizes, and the buildings fit to those shapes. If you play the game, you'll quickly realize. If you watch my gameplay footage on YouTube, you'll see like when I build. Sometimes I build like maybe like a pier kind of a thing. It'll be a straight line, and then it'll be like this weird star shape because that's the way the water is, and it makes sense. I mean, no water is perfectly flat, no island is perfectly square, so it makes sense. And the buildings actually do a really good job at kind of shaping around those, which I think is really neat. Regarding tips, like I mentioned, if you want to rotate the camera, you must use the left mouse button to hold it down to rotate it. And also, there is a height max to this game. I think that's the first thing I tried to do is make a tower as high as I could. Now be warned, it can go super high. So it takes quite a while to get there. However, there is a cap. There is an undo button. You can undo and go back, which is nice. And then also, would I recommend this game? I recommend this game just for supporting an active indie developer. He created a strong foundation for a city building tool. I hope Townscaper never gets complicated. I want Townscaper to stay exactly as it is right now. Instead, I hope the developer takes the feedback from the tool or the game or the toy, whatever you want to call it, and creates a new game that has more mechanics, goals, and objectives that uses the same tool from Townscaper, as it is extremely well implemented. So people can play this creative free building game similar to that, or they can do that. Or you could do something like Minecraft where you have, survival and creative mode. They're very different, but they're in the same game. You could do something like that. I think that'd be really cool because removing the creativity and the imagination side of Townscaper would be tragic because it is just such a fun game. It's one of those games where you're like, I'm going to get bored of this. And then you, like for example, when I did my review of the Townscaper, I was using OBS to record my screen. I was like, oh, how am I going to get 10 minutes for this? How am I even going to do like a 7-minute podcast on this as we're approaching 7 minutes right now? And by the end of the recording, I had like 35 minutes. I'm like, wow, okay. It's incredibly addicting. It's very much like a fidget spinner. You're just like, I've been clicking this button for 2.5 hours. I'm sorry for everybody sitting around me because it's got to be incredibly annoying, but here I am doing it. So, this is definitely a toy. I understand what they mean by that. It does seem along the fidget spinner experience, but it is a great indie developer. You can tell he's created some cool stuff. So I definitely check out Townscaper. It's a good price, and I can only imagine where it's going to be going next. So that is it for the autumn sale from Steam. I do have some new games coming up here. We have some interviews coming up before this year ends. Some new developers that I'm going to be checking out, and a lot of good stuff coming up. So stay tuned on the Never Ending Backlog podcast. We will speak again soon.